stuff happen while we're live to him, though. That'd be awesome.
That would be cool.
Like Kalani shadow figure.
Where all of a sudden he
The
gets
thing
dragged.
just flew behind your head.
I'm getting shot off screen. Yeah. I'm gonna share it out really quick on my pages.
I appreciate that. All right. Good evening, everyone. How you doing? Let a few people get on here before we start. Kalani's busy sharing on his social media. I gotta fix my headphone here. Hello. How is everyone? Susan, Rhonda, Naomi, how's everyone doing?
Real quick before we get started, I am fine. Whatever affected me last night, as soon as we left the building, it just released and I was fine. So thank you.
That's a good way to start. Hello, Jody. Laura, how are you doing? Naomi. All right. As promised, I didn't advertise this nearly as much as I should have because I've been crazy busy. But Kalani Smith, also known as Kalani the Ghost Hunter. And if you don't know who he is, just Google that name, go on TikTok, look up that name, and you'll see that he probably has more followings than the Pope, the president, and 10 other people you can name combined. He's got a huge following on TikTok. Dustin Parry was the one who mentioned Kalani to me, and I reached out to him. He's actually, did you announce this, or can we announce this?
You can announce it now. I've a few people know about it, but I haven't blasted it everywhere yet. But okay. I wanted to let you have that. So
Kalani will be at Power Unity.
I'm so excited for it too.
We reached out to him. He said he'd do it. He's going to be here both days. We haven't talked about the parties yet. That's up to you whether you want to attend those parties or not. I think you should because you'll have a good time. But Kalani will be there. So if you are planning on coming, you can see him there. If you weren't sure if you wanted to come and you do follow him on social media, there's your chance to meet the guy in the flesh and blood. He'll be there, have a table. We'll talk about, I don't know if you're interested in lecture or anything like that, but we'll talk about that later on. I don't know if you're open to that or
listen, I can talk for days now. I mean,
you and me both. That's why we may not get a word in edgewise here. So, Kalani, we're going to do the whole interview thing, the normal interview thing. Yeah. But first of all, tell us where you are and what you're doing right now.
So I am currently sitting about 20 feet from an embalming room inside of the Bell Mansion in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And this is my 4th day here. And I have tomorrow, and then I have an event on Saturday. So I would have been here for about 6 days.
So describe that.
Wait. What? Real quick. Are you alone?
That's what I was going to
No, so I have my wife has been with me. So my wife runs. So what's really cool about my entire production is I have all of my surveillance cameras streaming to one platform.
That's cool.
And my wife kind of sportscasts that and can bounce between cameras. And then I have the other stream walking around investigating. So people can actually watch surveillance cameras while also watching me live. And it's something that I've worked really hard to bring together, but it's probably the first time that it's ever looked this good and has been done this good.
Talk about teamwork. That's awesome.
I'll tell you what, I really feel like a dinosaur now because you would think, you would think I was Fred Flintstone, with using my feet in the car because we literally take an iPhone with us and we stream that way when we do these live investigations.
We're fossils, Kalani.
I feel. I've never felt older. Never.
Well, that's something that I'm really proud that I've been able to kind of integrate so much of the new technology that we have.
Right.
I know how it all works and how I can make it work in my favor. So that's why we're doing these longer duration streams, because it's a lot of work to set up all of the surveillance cameras, run all the wire, make sure everything's connected properly. Mm-hmm. So in places I don't have cellular network, I have a Starlink system that I run through satellite. So I've literally had to cover so many bases to make the logistics of this work, but it's a new form and medium of paranormal content and almost adapted the way that you literally feel like you're investigating while you're sitting on your couch at home because you have access to everything that I have access to in the environment.
Nice.
So when you're doing this, is this streaming the entire time across your platforms?
So the surveillance cameras stream 24/7 the entire time that I am at the location.
Right.
So any given time, somebody can hop in there, and even when I'm asleep, there's people that watch. So it really has helped me with any of my evidence review, because as a paranormal investigator, the worst part is whenever you're done investigating and you've got 8 hours
Oh my
of audio and
God.
video to
On
review.
every camera, on every recorder. Yeah, we know it well.
So now I've kind of helped myself, because now I have thousands of people that watch at any given point, and they can clip parts of the stream and actually post it where I can review it later, or they can even post it for me. So, I caught a little girl's face at the Savannah haunting house. I didn't even catch that. Somebody sitting at home clipped it, sent it to
That's
me,
cool.
because I was in the middle of the stream and I said, I swear I just saw a little head pop up over the couch, but I can't be for certain. So they look at that camera that was in the room and they frame by frame it. And I have a 4K surveillance system. I put a lot of money into it. The infrared's really good, because I hate blurry infrared footage,
Grainy, yeah,
because
pixelated.
it's hard to see if it's a camera artifact or if it's actually something that could possibly be paranormal. So I spent a lot of money on that, but you can clearly see frame by frame. It kind of changes shape, and then you see a side profile of a little girl. But that was somebody at home that caught that. That's what's crazy to me is, a lot of times TV has been where, they produce all this and then you get to watch the final product, but people are starting to actually realize that real paranormal investigating is hours and hours and hours of nothing happening. But those instances where we do get one or two things make it all worth it.
Yeah, I think that's, again, through the years since paranormal has come onto the mainstream on TV, that's the one thing that an hour program doesn't give you, is that we know, because we've been on a couple of these shows, that they're there for 4 days like you are, and they're putting so many hours into that 40 minutes, which 20 minutes is actual evidence.
Yeah.
And
If you're lucky.
but you're not seeing it live. You're seeing it, the edited version of what they're showing you, as opposed to you're there experiencing it. I'm here watching, and I'm seeing it in real time. I enjoy doing that on our end. And again, we're like working with an Etch-a-Sketch, and you're like over there with your, AI.
Well, hey, I started
technology.
with just an iPhone. I started with an iPhone. So you got to start somewhere.
Well, we're a little bit older than you, but somewhere for us is.
I think we should just get on his train.
Anyway, I'm thinking that's where we need to be. Anyway, let's again. I don't know a whole lot about you, so this is new for me, as it is for the people that follow us. Again, if you want to follow Kalani, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, where you can see the live stream on all of those platforms, or is it more Instagram, TikTok, not Facebook?
My Facebook, I run whenever it's kind of hard to explain, but when I'm on TikTok live, when I'm investigating, it's like a first person view of the investigation, because I'm carrying the phone. During that time, I usually stream to Twitch and Facebook, where people have access to the surveillance feed. And you can actually see the time codes up in the corner, because that's the one thing I wanted to make sure we had. There was two things when I bought this system I wanted to make sure. It had the quality that I wanted, and I also didn't want to have any audio output on any of the speakers. So all of them have microphones for input, but I didn't want any audio output, because then I can eliminate that, well, he's just pumping noise into the environment.
Mm-hmm.
But so this system, you could literally be at home and tune into Twitch or Facebook and watch these surveillance cameras to your heart's content for free. And then once I'm done investigating, so I usually investigate on any given night about 8 to 4 a.m. And then at 4 a.m., I will switch my TikTok feed. It'll be Twitch, and TikTok will switch to the surveillance feed, and it'll just bounce between cameras until I wake up the next morning.
Wow.
Yeah, people on Facebook, he's Kalani Smith. His last name is Smith. On TikTok, you can probably find Kalani the Ghost Hunter.
Yeah, so Kalani Ghost Hunter, that you can find the page everywhere. If you just go to KalaniGhostHunter.com, It has every platform I'm on and everything that I do.
Okay.
Nice.
So let's start at the beginning. Like every paranormal person has a story about the hows and the whys and the. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 24.
I'm 30. How is it that I look so much older than you? Anyway, 24. Okay,
Yeah.
so I got into this probably a couple of years later than you are older than you are now.
Mhm.
Where did the interest for you come from? Did you have that experience when you were a kid? Where did it come from?
So when I was 11, I was on a Boy Scout camp out in the Shiloh battlefield in Tennessee,
Okay.
and I was out tipping people's tents um,
Mischief.
before the events of the next day for the jamboree, and I come across this little drummer boy that I thought was a reenactor because all the reenactors were in town to reenact the Battle of Shiloh the next day. So I think this is a reenactor, and this kid turns around and his face is all dirty and he starts talking to me and the English is old and it's weird and I didn't understand it. I knew what he was saying, but I was like, I've never heard this accent.
You're like, this is a method actor. This guy is never out of character.
So I'm like, where are your parents at? Because I was only 11. He was younger than we were. And I was concerned that there was this kid walking around in a Confederate drummer boy outfit in the middle of the woods at night. So he asked us, have we seen his platoon? We said, what are you talking about? And he just said, y'all be safe out here. And we watched this entity walk by us, and I'm turning, following him go away, and then it just dissipates. So I look at my buddy, he looks at me, and we scratch our heads, and we run back to our tents, and we wake up the next day, and we both confirm that we weren't dreaming. But that was the first moment that I had my taste of the paranormal. And I'm Hawaiian, so my dad's Hawaiian, my mom's white from Nashville. Hawaiian culture is very spiritual. There's a lot of spirituality there that is very hard to explain. So I grew up in a part of that culture, and it wasn't something if spirits are out there, it's just grandma tells you not to mess with them. You know what I mean? So for me, it wasn't ever a question if it was real. It's now I'm at the point where how can I have this happen again, and how can I build this knowledge base on a field that's still entirely theory?
That's the thing, isn't it? And again, as you get older, you wonder even more. The questions become, there are more questions than from when you're younger as you get older and you really think about
your viewpoint
mortality
changes a
and
bit.
everything like that. I again, your background speaks to the interest already being there. As a person your age and all that you've experienced now, what are your theories on what happens when we pass? What do you think happens? Again, cover the whole big picture here. Why is it that spirits, some can throw something at you, others it's just the smell? What is your theory about when you pass, this is what happens?
So this has actually even been altered even in the past couple of days.
Right.
And I've had this theory for a while, and people talk about the bubble theory where our timeline kind of rubs against another one and we have this overlap at times. Well, for me, so 2 nights ago, and this is going to sound crazy, and you can rewatch the entire thing on my Patreon, but it was a 4.5-hour stream, and anyone that's in my chat that was there will tell you. But we literally, so I was sitting in the embalming room, and my wife was under the headphones, and she, didn't have her eyes. She was in her Estes mode, and she's sitting there listening. We have all our equipment out. And just like any other day, I said, is there anybody here that'd like to come forward and talk to us? Because I act like they're living in that moment. I don't talk to them like they're dead, because I feel like if I wanted to interact with somebody and they're talking to me like I'm alive and well, that I'd probably have a better response to that. And I have this name Raymond come through. And I was like, okay, Raymond. And the question I've been asking here recently is, what year is it for you?
Right.
And he says 2082.
What? That's
so hang on. No. Hang on. This is just the beginning of this wormhole. So I'm confused. I'm like 2082. Like, you got to be like joking with me. He thought I was the ghost that he was hunting in the embalming room. And what's crazy is I asked him where he was from. He said New York. And he told me that he was a psychic. Because I've had this theory that what if the psychics of our time are seeing the overlaps of other times, and those are the ghosts that they are seeing is the overlaps in time. So people that are psychic that go and investigate are just seeing another timeline in front of them. So I'm thinking about this, and I'm asking him, and he said he's gifted. And I asked him where he was born, and he said in Hinsdale, New York. And I asked him, I said, okay, Raymond, let's just play a game here. And I had to convince this individual that I wasn't a ghost. He's like, well, can you knock on the wall? And then I go knock on the wall. And then he goes, what the like he literally says that through my wife. So he was just as confused as I was. And then I asked him, well, what's your grandfather's name? Because I was like, his grandfather's got to be alive right now. I was like, is Facebook still a thing for you? And he's like, well, it's barely trucking along, but it's still there. So I was like, okay, what's your grandpa's name? And then I get the name Ray, and then I get the last name Easton. So I go on my phone and I look up Ray Easton. And I shit you not, there is a man that lives in New York with the name Ray Easton. And then I scroll down and I start seeing Ray Easton's involvement in all of this interdimensional travel and astral projection forums.
What?
It all happened live. Like you could go watch it.
Now you're telling me this is the S-Day session that
Yeah,
you're doing?
with his
And those of you
wife.
who don't know who are watching this, Kindred Spirits, if there's a frame of reference, the blindfold, spirit box, headphones. And this is all going on live as you're asking the question. She's repeating this.
What she hears.
Wow, that is bizarre. See, that's a new one for me. I've been doing this a long time.
Well,
Did you ask if Kalani Smith is rich in their past?
I asked. I said,
I
well,
would have
go
definitely
look
asked
me
that.
up. I was like, can you look me up? Because
Yeah.
if obviously I'm
Yeah.
doing this now, you can just type in my name and find
Yeah, yeah.
something about
Yeah.
me. And what's weird is when I'm starting to look up his grandpa and I find all this stuff about he's talking about letting go of the silver cord and all this crazy stuff that's out of my realm. He goes, this is getting dangerous. I need to go.
Oh,
And he just left. But he said that he was ghost hunting in the year 2082 in Fort Wayne, Indiana at the Bell Mansion.
that is like some Doc Brown stuff.
Yeah,
right
but
there.
then the other part that's good.
I mean,
that's,
honestly,
yeah, but he just said that it's getting dangerous. What?
he was
Maybe
messing-
because I'm messing with time.
Exactly.
That's my thought is like
Exactly.
I'm digging into something that I shouldn't
Like
have been
maybe
digging
you'd be
into.
altering something that you shouldn't be.
Wow,
But
that
that
is bizarre.
I've done a lot of investigations, and that is a first for me. But what's crazy is last night we're doing an Estes again, and we have somebody from the past come through, which is not very abnormal. I mean, that's what you
Right.
always get.
That's
Right.
what you
And-
usually get.
I started saying, I'm from the year 2023 and I'm here to talk to you. And these people were getting freaked out. And,
'Cause they-
and it's supporting this theory for me that are we talking to things that are actually dead, or are we talking to things that are just living in a different plane of existence that is literally right
Oof.
next to ours?
Wow, that's a really
Talk about shaking the tree.
yeah. That's one I wouldn't believe it unless I saw it. I mean, I am a skeptic at heart, and I've never ever experienced anything like that. But that would freak me out and blow my mind. Honestly,
Well, I was lost. Like, because people have watched me hours and hours and hours. I mean, I have people that have been watching me for over a year and a half, just do countless investigations. And we've never had anything like that. But I've only recently started to dive down the hole of what if we're looking at time as this, but time's
Right.
actually just a big clumbled mess. So there's a ton of ley lines in the state of Indiana. There's a ton of different environmental factors that I think would be pertinent to try and record and see these correlating lines of when we can actually make contact with another parallel based off of, the moon, the tides. There's so many different things. But if you just look at how things orbit, I mean, there's so much to it that I feel like I'll be busy for a long time after my
that's
night.
what I was going to ask you. Do you think it was right place, right time? Do you think it's possible to tap into that person again anywhere else because you've already made a connection?
Well, somebody sent me a message, and I didn't think about this. If this guy now knows my name, he knows what I do, and
Exactly.
he knows who I am, he could essentially go back in his world and look
Bingo.
at where I will be for the next however long I'm doing this because he has my entire schedule.
Oh my God, that is so bizarre. Now, I heard something similar, like at the Conjuring House, they talk about how they think there's different spirits from different times that actually live together and exist together, but never future. It's
No, my
always
brain's a little bit
those that
twisted
come
on this
before.
right now. I'm like going.
If I didn't have it happen in the moment, I would be like, oh, this guy's full of shit. Like I would be skeptical because I'm
But
very
how many
skeptical.
people have said that about others that have discovered stuff before our time? Like, that was way out of the realm of rationale for
I'm
us.
wondering what's in the air in Indiana and if there's any nuclear power plants.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious. What is your background where you're, like, do you have something, a scientific background or engineering or computer or anything that aids you in this?
So when I was first deciding to go to college, which I have 2 degrees, but they're not in what I'm about to tell you, I was actually going to school to be a nuclear engineer. And then I didn't want to sit in a room and do math all day because once you figure out what nuclear engineers do, it's very boring. It sounds really cool, make a lot of money, but it's a pretty boring job. So I shifted to do online school because I wanted to travel, because I'm at this point in life where I found that the more experiences I have and the more people I can meet, it actually has expanded my mind and opened up my understanding of so much more than college did for me. So I have a degree in criminal justice with a concentration in homeland security. That's my bachelor's, and I have a liberal arts associate's degree. But I worked as a legislative assistant and a legislative bill clerk for the Tennessee House of Representatives. And I first made videos because I was filming weddings and quinceañeras because I've always been filming, and it was a side business that I was making money on. And that's what led me kind of into becoming a content creator for the paranormal. Was my wife, we were down at a hotel in Fort Worth, and she goes, well, why don't you just start making videos about, because I've been interested. I had done led group investigations for a couple of the event companies. And, it was always an interest for me, but it was never like, oh, I'm going to make a job out of being a ghost hunter. Because you say that to somebody and they're like,
Yeah, right.
No, you will not do that. But that's what led to this path. And I actually was supposed to have a job, or I was in the running for a job to be like the governor's camera guy. And I'd follow him for all of the business announcements through the state of Tennessee. So when I didn't get that job, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to quit. I had 10,000 followers. I quit my job. And, the rest is history.
But let's go back to the whole belief thing, because we got kind of sidetracked with the time.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
So, if, in your opinion, based on your experience, because again, this is really, the big question for everyone, obviously. You pass away. Do you believe that heaven is a dimension? Do you believe that we do transform into energy, and that we just become another form of consciousness, energy with a consciousness, and that we're part of a collective, universal? I don't want to lead you here, but what are your beliefs as far as that?
So I do think there is a heaven that we move to that's a different dimension in a sense. But what's weird is I keep asking this question because every time I'm in a conversation with an entity, they have to go. They have a schedule to keep up. They have to go somewhere. And that makes me believe that there has to be a purpose. There has to be a responsibility wherever they're at that's outside of this just plain existence of being in energy form. Because even as people, right, if you don't have something to do, that's the moment you start deteriorating as a person. Yeah. Because when you lose purpose and responsibility, why do you wake up every day?
Yeah.
So every time I talk to one of these entities, it always seems that by the end of the conversation, there's somewhere they have to go. There's something they have to do. So for me, I think that extends past just being a energy in existence out in the plains of nowhere. I truly think that we go to this other dimension and we have different responsibilities comparative to, and I actually asked the first night I was here, there's a man by the name of Homer Van Meter, who was an American gangster, right-hand man to John Dillinger. So his body passed through here, and they've had various people come through and get the name Homer. So they think it's Homer Van Meter. And I ask Homer, I say, Homer, does time work the same way for you that it does for me? And he goes, well, sort of. And I'm like, what does that mean? But it seems like right when I get to the point where you're actually getting like something that could be groundbreaking in that sense, they have to pull away and they can't tell you. Like he told me, you'll know when it's your time. That's what I was told.
See, that's kind of interesting because two things I want to bring up based on what you said about, again, talking about what happens after. In a sense, what we're talking about, the afterlife is just that another life, in that, like you said, it's a whole nother existence beyond this one that we're currently living in the present time. And the theory of past lives would mean that those stack up. We live in one plane of existence as this person doing this, and then another, and maybe that goes on, infinitely.
Maybe that's where the deja vu comes from.
Yeah, but the one thing you mentioned that really made me think now after you told that story, we once did an EVP session where within a group where one of the questions was, how do we appear to you? And the male spirit answered, you're dead. And now that you mention that, it's like one of those, whoa,
Clicking
type of
moments.
moments. Like, again, maybe that's who we were conversing with, was somebody forward, not backward.
And that's what's crazy is the paranormal. We've always been in this mindset that we have to go this one direction.
Right.
But I truly believe that if we truly believe that we can go one direction, I think it's feasible to believe you can go the other direction. I don't think it's that far of a stretch for me. I mean, I know that it takes quite a bit to wrap your head around, but it depending on how you see, like if you see it as there is a guy that died in this house and he sits in this house and he will sit here until somebody comes to talk to him. If that's what you see the paranormal as and that's what you believe, that's perfectly fine.
Right.
But then that would make it impossible for you to believe that you could come in contact with something that hasn't happened yet to you.
Right.
So I really think it just depends on your opinion and where your beliefs are in the theoretical realm of the paranormal. But for me, it's evolved out of this. I think with each and every investigation I do, and you build upon the knowledge you had on the one before, it starts to alter the way that you approach not only your investigations, but also your just entire belief in the paranormal.
But it's like one road that leads from point A to point B. There's just one road. Everybody goes that road, and then another road's built, and oh my God, you guys know that there's another way that you can go. And sometimes the pathways change as we grow and we change through time. I think too that makes changes.
Yeah, but physics would tell us that it's easier to go forward in time than it is to go back. Yet, as paranormal investigators, we think
it's
the communication is easier that way than that way. So it really is. That's what I love talking about this stuff, because you'll never meet. You could talk to 10 people and none of them will kind of share the exact same theories and opinions, but you could learn something from every one of those people, though. That may kind of alter your perspective a little bit. And especially if it's based on experience and just being in the field and coming across all of these different situations and scenarios and spirits. You know what I mean? It really does open your mind. And if you're that close mind to the notion of the even existence of an afterlife and spirits, then you'll never get it.
But how open-minded of you, and you didn't even close that off when that 2082 came out. You just didn't go, oh, this is just garbage and just
well, I would have. That's what's crazy.
Normally you would have?
I would have. If you would have talked to me when I first started this, I would have said there's no way. But because I have become more in tune with what I believe in and I've had more experiences, it doesn't escape my mind that what if the possibility that we are interacting with another timeline is what's actually happening. And what makes you really think about this entire theory that we've brought up is anytime we get a telescope photo, think about how different that photo actually is in real time compared to what we are seeing when we get it back to Earth. Yeah. So if all of these stars can be dead, but when we get this picture, everything is alive, you have just altered the ability to see something in real time.
It's funny that you mentioned that too, because Amy Allen, do you know who that is? From she's on a show called The Dead Files.
Yes.
Been on for years and years and years and years. And Amy, it's a well-known medium. She's been around a long time. She flew me out there to be on the show with her, and when I was doing EVP sessions, she's watching me and she said, wait at least a minute before you ask the next question. And I'm like, a minute? And I'm thinking, well, I wait usually maybe 20 seconds max. And she goes, no, John. She goes, believe it or not, it takes a while to get the message where it's going. And then and that kind of stands to what you're saying about those images, is that we don't know the frequencies and what it takes to. That's why you mentioned equipment. I'm going to segue into that really quick. I know there's a lot of people out there who they don't like equipment for whatever reason. They'll just use a recorder and whatever. And I get that and I respect that. To each his own. That's your thing. We do use a lot of equipment because in my opinion, and I don't know if you believe the same, I'm going to ask you about that. In my opinion, I think in some cases, maybe they are so much advanced in their knowledge of everything to where on our level, it almost has to be communication for dummies just to kind of bridge. No, I hate to put it that way, but touching, waving your hand in front of,
Colors,
knocking on things.
music.
I think sometimes we do have to try to bridge that gap any way we can. I think equipment kind of helps with that, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, this is what I'll say about equipment, right? I think you could give any Yahoo off the street
Of
my
course.
Pelican case, and he could turn on all the stuff, and it would go off in different situations,
Sure.
regardless if there was paranormal activity or not. But I think what makes the equipment a important part for me is I know how a lot of the stuff works, and I
Yep.
know what causes a lot of it to go off.
Yep.
So I think the biggest predicament people get in is the moment equipment goes off, they jump to paranormal.
Yep.
They don't run through the processes. Okay, what could it logically be before we get to the point of something I can't explain?
Exactly.
So I think if you approach equipment with the mindset of I'm going to try and prove every which way possible on why this is going off outside of it being something abnormal or paranormal, then at that point you have become experienced in understanding how your equipment works. And I think that's your biggest thing is going out with a recorder is absolutely fine. And,
Yeah.
going out with very basic to none equipment is great. But if you can truly, we don't actually know how entities will present themselves or if that's how they present themselves. We could have been doing it the wrong way for the past
Oh, sure.
entirety of this field, but you never know until you have that piece of equipment out in the environment. You're trying to engage with something intelligent, right? And I think that's the biggest thing for me is it's not the fact that the equipment goes off, but when I can develop a line of intelligence between me and
Bingo.
whatever I'm communicating with.
Bingo.
So it just serves as almost like an instrument for them to use and not necessarily the evidence for them to use.
No, I agree 100%. That's why I said it's more if you know what it's doing and like you said, why it's doing what it's doing, what you're actually looking at when something is happening, you can use that as a form of kind of documenting and interacting. And of course, you're not, if one little whatever EMF detector goes off, you're not, oh my God. This place there are demons here. Look at this thing. 2 lights. Oh my God. Run. Get out of here.
Well, there's some folks that will.
Oh, believe me.
but-
I know a lot of them. Trust me. I know a lot
But
of
the
them.
key, there's the key. When it comes to the paranormal, one, make sure you do understand what the equipment's for and what it does, why it's reacting the way it's reacting. Then find out and eliminate all of the natural reasons why it should be happening. And I think that's why these kind of conversations are very important too.
Well, and I'm not big on the phone apps because I know
I won't touch him.
I here's the thing, especially if it's a word bank, because the thing with a word, like even with an Ovilus 5, because it converts electromagnetic field frequencies into this programmed word bank, even that is kind of hard for me to process on how I can get behind it.
Right.
I've had interesting scenarios with it, but I think, again, it goes into everything else. You have to approach it with caution. And like with phone apps, my biggest thing is they design these apps to be for particular phones. So like the newer iPhones have LiDAR sensors on the back. But if you have an older iPhone without a LiDAR sensor, you can still install the same app and it will still work, even though it doesn't have the technology that it's supposed to have for it to actually work.
Exactly.
So even with an SLS camera, I don't know if many people know this,
Yeah.
but if you look at the detail rate in terms of megapixels on a Kinect camera, it is a Motorola Razr phone camera on an instrument that you are finding ghosts with. And for some reason, it looks at a lamp and it finds a ghost. So it's hard. I love technology, but you have to approach it with so much caution because the problem with this field is it is growing more and more and more and more, and people see it as a marketability tactic. I can throw this app out there for $10.
Yep.
And if you have 10,000 people download a $10 app, you're
Bingo.
sitting nice on the beach somewhere.
What is your, again, I don't know you well enough to know if you work with mediums or not and what your opinion, do you work with them? Do you trust in them? What are your opinion? And I'm not trying to get you to trash any mediums or anything like that.
No.
I'm just curious about what your perspective is. Do you use them ever during these types of investigations?
So I've had a few people that have told me things that they necessarily shouldn't know and that I've never posted anywhere publicly or let out as information. So there is a handful of people that I truly can't understand how they know some of the things about me that they know.
Exactly.
But in the same breath, I've met a lot of people that try and tell me things that are so vague and are so applicable to pretty much the masses that it's hard for me to go out and for my gifted folks out there, this isn't a stab at you, but this is just saying, when somebody comes to me and they're like, I'm sensing a male that has passed. I'm like, well, everybody's got a guy in their life that has died.
People our age, we're in our 50s, like, and we've been approached by like there's a male figure. Is your mother or father? Well, yeah, we're in our 50s. The odds are one, and then if that doesn't hit it, well, I'm sensing a grandfather or
I'm getting the letter P.
Can I buy a vowel? No. All right.
But see, that's curious. My thing. It's like, I think there are people out there that have gifts and access to different parts of their mind that I don't have. But I think out of every 10, you might have 9 that aren't that way.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We know, again, doing what we do at the convention and everything, I know I've met, I know for a fact I have met the real deal. And do I know how it works? Do I know? I do have a theory, though, and she knows this one. All of the legit mediums that I've met, they've suffered trauma.
Major trauma.
I don't know if that causes some kind of weird.
And sometimes not even childhood. Some of them that did nothing and then hit middle age and had a massive trauma all of a sudden.
But I'm the same as you. I don't usually work with them. We do private residential cases too. I don't know if you do that or if you're just the researcher / investigator. Do you ever do any private cases? Have you ever done any private cases?
So I have been a part of a handful, but I don't do them as a content creator because it is a huge liability.
Well, no, that I know. I'm just talking about.
But with my schedule now, I don't really have, because I'm always on the road. I'm always at locations. Like I'm literally going from here, and then I have a 4-day break, and then I will be in Jamaica investigating. So my schedule, I did 172 investigations in the past year and a half.
What?
I mean, literally living in my car, eating cans of tuna, streaming from 3 or 4 locations every week. And that's why my numbers are where they're at, is because I have put a tremendous amount of time, effort, and money into this. So it's, people always ask me, oh, I wish I had a following like you. And I'm like, well, just be willing to give up everything in your life and you can get there.
And again,
come close to that, but I don't have that
kudos to your wife, because obviously she's right there by your side doing this all too.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I first started, I would go out on my own, and because she wasn't as into it as she is now. It's something she's had to get acquainted to. She always believed, but it's different from believing to putting yourself in an insane asylum to try and see if there's something there. So she got to the point where I was gone so long. She was like, okay, it's either A, I go with him and we make this tandem work, or B, I'm alone at home. So she decided to come with me on the road, and it's been a blessing because she's now been able to help me with different parts that it's hard to just do by yourself.
Yeah.
And we've kind of developed really good communication and almost this relationship as investigators that has allowed us to almost open up and stuff to come through a little bit more, because there's that consistency with our investigations.
And there's that trust and that connect between two people that rely on each other. I think that aid and help with that.
Yeah, because we do this together as well. And again, for a relationship, we do a lot of events too, not nearly as many dates as you're doing, but for a relationship to be successful and to have any kind of longevity to it, you really can't be out on the road all that time. And she's
I mean, it sucks for both parties. It's
exactly.
It does.
Exactly.
He dragged me into this kicking and screaming because I had really dark childhood with stuff, and I did not want to get into this at all. That door was closed tight. But he talked me into that it's important to have someone who's experienced so that you can connect with people, because there's trauma of going through this stuff. Not from a researcher's point of view, but from somebody who's lived in a haunted place and had to go through the trauma of it. There isn't really therapy for it, other than talking
Yeah,
to other people that
for sure.
understand.
So I don't want to get too deep into religion because it's not a good thing to do, or politics or anything like that. But your beliefs in angels and demons, do you believe they exist?
I believe they exist, but I believe that the frequency in which we come in contact with them is probably 1,000% of what people say.
Thank you.
I don't think I've ever encountered what I would consider a demon.
Thank you.
And you know, I probably could be even more viral than I am now if I went down that rabbit hole. But the problem
Well,
you run
let's
into,
do that tonight. Go ahead. Let's see. Get that SD going. Come on, let's talk.
yeah, we can get the
We
K2
want to go
going here.
viral too, you know, Kalani. Come on.
But you know, it's just like for me, this entire approach for me, it was never about getting this massive following. It was always about keeping everything authentic and keeping it as transparent as possible. Because for me, that was the biggest problem I had with me as a viewer and paranormal TV and paranormal content in general is it's hard to have that trust and that transparency when something is post-produced.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on anyone that
No.
makes videos, but that's just the nature of the game. So when I started all of this, it was always about being as transparent as possible. Like I remember there was one investigation that I had a walkie-talkie and I was talking. And I started noticing when I would hit my walkie-talkie button, my REM pod would go off. So the
Yeah.
radio frequency was
Yep.
interfering with my REM pod.
Yeah, yeah.
So then at that point, I knew that anytime I hit my walkie-talkie, that REM pod will go off.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to people, I said, look, if somebody's out here with their hands in their pocket and they're doing a session and all of a sudden the REM pod starts going crazy, and ask them, make sure there's no walkie-talkie. Don't accuse them of anything. But
No.
my thing is we have to understand how everything works, and we
Yep.
have to understand how things that we have can affect those to truly be out here looking
Yes.
for answers. But if you're out here just to produce entertainment,
Yeah.
that's a completely different avenue. And if people were upfront and honest about that, I wouldn't care. But
Right.
it's when we mark
You're
entertainment
manufacturing.
as
You're manufacturing. That
yeah.
another thing that people do a lot too that drives me bananas is they'll be filming like a K2 meter with their cell phone, and I'm watching this thing. Oh my, and I'm going, seriously?
No.
Seriously.
What about
Like
the-
this is every Instagram, TikTok, or whatever
We
video
watched
I'm
a
watching.
video.
But I want to comment on everyone, but I don't want to get in
No,
like, fights
forget-
and
yeah, you
arguments with
would.
everyone. But I'm like, you're just manufacturing stuff.
We
Do you
watched
really
a video
believe-
that got put out there years ago that, oh my God, this building is so haunted and they're going up the stairs. And when you get to this and it's going, and there's a phone in the person's pocket that's going off, and you can see it light
Oh.
up. That's like, and nobody caught that. Nobody was like, they're not debunking. They're just accepting it for.
But that's kind of manufacturing and just, or
Yeah.
they just don't kind of take into consideration.
Or you're just
that-
ignorant. Like if
that-
you don't
that's what I
truly
mean.
know, right? There's some people that aren't trying to mislead or manufacture,
No,
but
and I
they
think
just
there's
don't
more
know.
of that than
Right.
anything. I really do in this field. I think there's more of the ignorance and not educated on what it is that things do and what can interfere than it is the other.
Well,
Well,
and I
that's-
even go
Go
ahead.
No,
Okay.
go ahead.
I've even noticed that different phones, different phone models, different phone carriers have different impacts on different pieces of
Oh
equipment.
yeah.
So like because at one point I had like 4 phones because I was streaming on 4 different cameras and it was a nightmare. But I noticed that my Samsung T-Mobile phone had a much larger range on how close I could get to equipment before it would go off than my Verizon iPhone. So even different phones have a different range in how they affect our equipment. And I think that's where you can actually get really scientific, is
Right.
trying to figure out, how can I eliminate every possible reason this thing is going off? Because, and here's another thing, is people will take a video of their K2 spiking or a REM pod going off, but there's no context. There's no reason as to why that matters. And I think that's what I've really honed in on as a content creator is I don't just post videos of a REM pod going off because every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there can do that.
Bingo.
But I've added context and why this REM pod going off actually matters.
Bingo. And that's really important because, again, there are too many people out there who, like you said, the equipment's there. They may have seen it on a show or from a content provider or whatever, and they're going, you're reacting to it. I need to buy one of these things. And when it does this, oh, I got me a ghost too. I don't know if this happens to you. Again, and it probably does because it happens to all of us. I'll get videos of all I
Don't
see.
say orbs. Don't say orbs.
All I see is feet on a bed like this, right? There's feet, and they're filming from the top down. And the cat
bubbles.
The cat,
say orbs.
the cat runs across the bed, and now comes an orb, and they go, and then they go, "What do you think that is?" And I go,
Dust.
I'm like, again with this, but I try to be nice because you don't want to, be rude. And I say, is there anything else going on there that you believe that would be something? Well, no, but I see these every night.
Well, it's like after I walk into my room, they follow me. I was like, are they following you, or is it the fact that your feet are moving on carpet and carpet stores?
Yeah.
All of this.
I'm like, I could put an IR camera in anybody's home, and I'll capture anomalies eventually. So let's go back to the demon thing though, real quick. I don't want to get bogged down in that. I have never come across a demon in 20 whatever years of doing this. Anything that I believe is demonic. I don't believe. I don't have that kind of background in religion and belief that I believe in demons or angels. My theory is that Charlie Manson would be a hell of a spirit if he was lingering around. What would you say is the quote unquote darkest entity you've ever come across, and why would you categorize it as that? What happened?
Well, and I tell people all the time, like, because they say, is there anything bad here? But good and bad are just perceptions, right? Like, good to you and bad to me are going to be completely different things. So I think it's not fair to say there's something good or bad or evil. Like, because if you're an asshole in real life, you're going to be an asshole when you're a ghost, because why would you change? I mean, you lived your entire life that way. Why would you change when you pass over?
Right.
And coming from my background with criminal justice and criminology, you're right. You take somebody like Charlie Manson and you take away some of these things that happened in his life, and instead of being this cult leader that convinces people to kill in his name, he's now a very influential good leader, right? So you're looking at taking somebody that had these traumatic experiences and these things that have set them on this course of destruction, but you alter a couple of those down the line, and they are now on the complete other side of the spectrum. So, and I always tell people that, even Adolf Hitler to Germany was their savior in that moment. But to the rest of the world, he was beyond evil.
Well, okay, let's put those two aside, and let's say now Jeffrey Dahmer. Let's see you find the good in that one. Let's say Jeffrey Dahmer was a spirit lingering in a building or something, but I'm asking you, in your experience, have you come across something that even you and all these nights of you doing this has made you go, holy crap, there really is something here that is kind of so quote unquote powerful and could harm me? Have you come across that?
So the only time I have ever been physically attacked was in the McIntyre Villa in Atchison, Kansas. I've been to a lot of places and I've done a lot of crazy stuff, but I was in the bathroom where this man supposedly took his life. It was either this bathroom or the adjacent bathroom in the bedroom. And I was pressing on trying to figure out why he took his life. Normally I wouldn't do that, but sometimes I get a little, I want to poke the bear a little bit and see what happens. And I'm running a DR60 that I was borrowing from the owner, and we're not hearing much. We had these weird like screams coming through, but nothing that was super clear. But I feel my arm burning, and I look and I roll my sleeve up, and there's 3 lines running down my tricep, which I was like, oh, hell yeah, I just got scratched. But that was the only time I've ever physically been affected. Now, I will preface this. I've had a lot of people that say they are psychic or gifted that have told me that there is this spiritual protection from my ancestry, which again, I don't know how much I buy into it. But if I have 30 people telling me the same thing, I'm more liable to believe it than if I just have one person saying that. But, I've been a lot of places that people have story after story of being horrified and ran out and attacked, like the Sally house in Kansas. I have had nothing but positive experiences in that house. And I've slept in the floor of that house all alone 4 or 5 nights and slept like a baby, right? And I think part of it is what energy and attitude you bring into an environment will kind of reciprocate what they give you. And I think that's something that I've really started to notice.
Have you ever gone to a location and absolutely nothing as far as interaction, communication, where it was just like you walked in there thinking, because that happens to us all the time. You hear these stories. I can name the great big places, you know them as well. And you walk out of there going, huh, again, maybe it was me and my energy. Maybe it just, the spirits didn't want any part of me, or they were doing something else. Like you said, they're busy. They all
Or they
got
were on
something to do.
vacation.
Have you ever had that happen in all of your travels?
So I did Waverly 4 times last year. 2 of the times I went to Waverly, we had some really good stuff. We had disembodied voices coming through on the stream when I wasn't even when I wasn't investigating. It was just coming
Nice.
through. And then 2 other nights we were there, didn't have anything go off.
Yeah.
And I think we get this perception in our minds that if we pay this much money, that we will get in return this much activity. But that's just not.
If only it worked that way, though. That'd be awesome.
But this is where my theory has evolved, because if we're running off of this time idea,
Right.
my thought is if you've ever talked to somebody that lives in a haunted house, you either come to terms that you live in a haunted house, or there's this constant battle between you and
Yep.
whatever you are battling. But I think with places like Waverly, we know a lot of the history and we know how much trauma and death took place there. What if the people that are in that timeline are so used to the haunting that they just kind of disregard it at times? And that's partly why we have
Immune
these.
to it.
They're just like, well, there's the ghost. There's the ghost in the body locker again. And they just walk off and they don't interact. So that's where my mind is starting to try and figure out, well, why does it apply in this situation and not that situation? And then again, we jump down this wormhole of me trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
But that's what I love about it. In every aspect of paranormal research, investigation, like I said, the what ifs, they just pile up and pile up and pile up. But it's not in a bad way. It's in a way that really makes you, like I said, think outside the box so much. John Zaffis, I don't know if you know who that is. He's the, I love John Zaffis. John Zaffis for me is like the guru, top of the food chain. And we were talking about what we were just talking about. I said to him, do you think a place, let's take Waverly, for example, could it in theory get quote unquote fished out by so many people going in there all the time, asking the same questions, using the same equipment? Does eventually, is there a night or two where the spirits that reside there are like, oh, not again, just no. And he said, in my opinion, it's the opposite. He said, I think the constant open communication and attempted interaction feeds the spirit energy there. What would your theory be on something like that?
So I think from my experience that because they know they are going to get the interaction, they don't feel as pressed to give you the interaction. Because I definitely think the energy that we bring into places is something that, whether it is this thinning of timelines or residuals being there, regardless of what you believe, I think you do bring an energy and a presence into a space, and you are opening yourself and interacting with that space, calling for activity. But in places like Trans-Allegheny, Waverly Hills, Pinhurst, places they know that they are going to get that traffic, who's to say they're just like, I don't want to talk tonight. I mean, I'll talk to the people tomorrow, but I know there are going to be more people coming next week. But when I got a place that has never been investigated,
bingo,
they are all jumping, what it seems, to try and come forward and communicate, because they don't know the next time somebody is going to be there to try and talk to them.
We found that out to be so after COVID. Like when places were closed and we went back in, the activity was so heightened.
We investigate a lot of new locations that no one has been before, and you'll meet these people, and they all talk about things they've seen, things they've heard, and we go in there and they'll watch as we live stream, or we'll show them what we found afterwards, and they're sometimes they're really surprised. And I said pretty much what you were saying. I said, you may be in here every day and doing your business or doing your job or doing whatever, but you're not openly engaging them.
No, you're not
trying to communicate with them as people, almost the living. That's what we do. We're probably the first people that they see that come in there and go, hey, Bob Smith, my name is John. No, Smith, not that that's a relative of yours.
No, you're fine.
My name is John. I'm here. I know you're here. Hey, could we talk? Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what life was like for you. I think that bridges the gap too with newer places that haven't been investigated yet. I think they find it refreshing.
Well, like
as
a
well on
person,
their
oh my
end.
God, someone's talking to me.
Yeah.
They want to know.
Mhm.
And others may get pissed off because they don't want to be addressed and they don't want to be.
But you
messed with.
see, I do believe in demons, not like what Hollywood and all of that, because I had dark stuff that happened that were horrific when I was younger, and I won't get all into it because everybody's heard it before. But I do believe there's something more than just evil man that's died and become or whatever. There is something just from what I've experienced, and it's an experience. It's like we wouldn't know what's out or what's happening. Like you said, you had that experience this time there that blew your mind with another possibility. There is that possibility. My thing is that there's so very few people that do get touched by something that is on that level of whatever it is. I still don't understand. I labeled it as a demon because I know it's not what I know what a bad, evil human being is. I've had those in my life too.
Mhm.
So there is a difference. And unless you've experienced it, you can't understand it. It's hard to explain. It's not like Hollywood. It's not like the ghost shows on TV where they say there's a demon or what. And if you truly, and I say this with tongue in cheek, there's so many people that say, I'm a demonologist and I've come in to save you from the demon. No, you would shit your pants and run the other way. We're humans. That's not something that's in our ability.
Hey, I'm hearing
to
stuff.
do.
Hold on. I think we're going to get a demon. I'm telling you, we're going to go viral. I'm keeping him on here because I'm waiting for whatever.
Right?
I'm waiting for him to get pulled away from
And
on
he
the floor or
knows.
something.
If anything's dark, I'm out.
So let me ask your opinion on this one too, because we talk about this a lot. I'd like to get your opinion on this too. Let's talk about like Amityville, some of these well-known places where something happened to one family, yet 10 families have lived there. What is your opinion on that? Obviously you have to have one based on what you've done. Is it the person living there, their energy that has triggered whatever was dormant? Or do you think that maybe there wasn't there anything there at all? I see the look.
For me personally, I don't foresee it changing much from how it is now to how it was even 50 years ago. Even if you're going into a location, it's still the same process. You're still identifying what's there, coming to terms with what's there, identifying if it needs to be removed or if it's just something you live with. But my fact is there's only one family was affected. And a lot of these stories that have been crafted are all linking back to one tree, essentially. And that makes me question, as just somebody that's very doubtful of anyone, is it the fact that this haunting was this bad, or the fact that these people could tell a story like nobody else?
I like him.
And that's my. I'm not in a place.
You're logical.
I'm not in a place to say somebody is a liar, right? And
Of
I'm not
course
going to
not.
speak
You
bad
don't
on
live
someone that's
there.
not around.
But you're saying from your view, your
No, that's
experience,
all I
and
asked.
what you're dealing
No,
with.
you didn't
this
live
is
there,
your
so you could
opinion of
never
it.
say for certain what.
Right. I mean, it could have been
transpired.
removed. It could have left. But for me, when I start digging a little bit deeper and you look past paranormal fields in different people's lives, it starts to raise a lot more red flags and questions as to what am I seeing and is it legitimate? Because if we can be fooled in 2022 or 2023 by people and things that we see,
Got
best
that right.
damn believe that you could have been fooled by something you saw 30 years
Of
ago.
course.
Okay, so last question, and then we'll let you get back to doing what you're doing there, and we'll watch. I'm sure something will happen as soon as we log off, which will be my luck. Attachments.
Mhm.
Have you ever felt like anywhere you've ever gone that something has been with you even after you left that site?
So as a content creator, I ask for attachments everywhere I go, because in my mind, if there's nothing happening in the building I'm at, maybe one of these attachments can make something happen for me. And now we got our next video. But for me, I've actually looked at attachments as a different perspective. And we think we may have one from the Crescent Hotel because we keep getting the name Norman. And Norman Baker was the charlatan that was at the Crescent Hotel. But Norman can't stand me. Anytime I sing a lot because I think singing puts a lot of energy into the environment. So I sing a lot, and anytime I sing, Norman is very negative. He doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't like it. And he has come through on the past 3 locations we've been at, way far away from Eureka Springs, Arkansas. So I think attachments are real, but I actually look at it in a sense of, right, if there is something that is looking for its taxi to take them to wherever it wants to go, I don't think that it prevents them from going back to said place, but I think that gives them the knowledge to go somewhere else. So I have embraced it. I ask, if there's anything that wants to go with me home, you can hop on the back, and we're going to be somewhere haunted next week, and we can see what we find.
It's really funny that you say that, because I do feel like I've had over the years at least 2 or 3 times where something had stayed with me either for 2 or 3 days or sometimes even 3 weeks. But I think it's like you said, in my opinion, is the same as yours. Eventually, they probably do go back to where they originated from or move on to somewhere else because they figured out how to leave, whatever. I think with me, they come home with me and they're like, oh, hell no. Where I was
way better.
This guy's just boring. I've seen him in the shower. Let's go back.
But the funny part is you sing because it puts energy out there. There's a mine that we do, and I have to go in by myself.
You got to come to Jersey and come to this mine.
I sing to keep them away because I'm terrified.
No, you've got to come to Jersey.
Because I sound bad.
And come to this mine. It's called the Sterling Hill Mine. Google it. 79 people in 90 years died in that mine, and that's when he started keeping records. The director said it's probably tripled that number. That place, you hear them talking back and forth to each other. It's nuts in there.
We've had people pushed. I was telling John that I was there. There's whistling that comes from an empty mine where there's nobody. And we were with a group of people and they got to hear it. I mean, there's crazy
Maybe the
stuff
week of the expo.
Maybe I can come up early. Yeah.
That'll be cool. And check that place out. Kalani, I can't thank you enough for doing this, man. And I can't wait to see you in November 4th and 5th in Jersey at the expo. Looking forward to having you there. All these people that follow us are like talking about
you and your wife,
way
both
beyond
parties.
Years.
You got to come. There's food, everything. It's a DJ, you name it.
You ever been to Jersey?
All right. I have been to Jersey.
Okay.
I only have one complaint with New Jersey.
You know our state bird, right? If you're driving around, what to do if someone you'll be one of us then.
No, the only complaint I got is they don't let me pump my gas. That's all I've got against Jersey. It drives me nuts. I'm like, no random guy coming out of the box. I don't want to give you my card. Let me just pump my own damn gas.
The opposite. I was born and raised here, so when we go other places, I'm like, hey,
where's the guy at?
Where's the guy? My father lives in Vegas, and this is years and years ago when I first went out there, and we were going somewhere, and I'm in a rental car, and I'm following him. I had to get gas, and I pull up, and I'm literally sitting there for 10 minutes, and he walks up to me, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm waiting for the guy." He said, "You come from New Jersey. You're the only one with the guy. There is no." I'm like, "This is civilization. You don't have a guy."
We just took a trip to PA, and I said, "Well, here's the cash for it to go in." And he goes, "What do you mean you pump?" And I go, "No, you have to go do a deposit before you can start pumping."
This is 2023. We shouldn't pump anything ourselves. Come on. Anyway, Kalani, thank you so much. Go back to your live stream. We'll be watching. Can't thank you enough for coming on.
Good luck to you and
your
wife.
All right, thank you guys, and we'll see you.
Take care.
In November.
Thank you. Take care.
That's my earpiece here. So, there you have it. Thanks for watching, guys. Kalani Ghost Hunter on TikTok. You'll be able to watch that stream right now if you want to go there. Check it out. Instagram, Kalani Ghost Hunter as well. On Facebook, he is Kalani Smith. And I don't know who was the guest that just popped on here that wants to come on.
Click on it.
I don't know if I want to see who that is.
See.
Who is this?
Pull it up.
Is that him again?
No, pull it up.
Okay.
I didn't mean to leave. I didn't know if I was supposed to leave.
Yeah, you were. I'm like, who was in the back again? There's someone else that wants to come.
Well, no, I was just making sure because I hit the button and I was like, wait a minute. You know, like when you call somebody and then you think they're saying something when you're hanging up? I thought that's what happened, but
no.
Have a good one. We'll see you guys.
I'm saying to her, there's someone still there. I think Kalani's demon is calling us from the film mansion. All right, take care, Kalani. All right, guys, thanks for watching again. Check him out, Kalani Ghost Hunter, TikTok. He's got a huge following. Kalani Ghost Hunter on Instagram. And he will be with us, New Jersey Power Unity Expo. If you don't know what that is, it's a big paranormal conference that we host in New Jersey, November 4th and 5th of 2023. Lots of people from TV, lots of cool exhibit rooms, lots of cool vendors. Hopefully we'll see you there. Only $25 a day for adults, $10 for kids, lots of lectures, exhibit rooms,
Free
really
lectures.
cool things. So have a good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Good night, everybody.